In 1970, South Korea and Ghana had almost the same income per person, similar population size, similar education levels, similar access to global trade. Fast forward 50 years. South Korea builds semiconductors for the world. Ghana exports cocoa and struggles with debt. One became wealthy. One keeps fighting collapse cycles. Same planet, same century? Very different outcomes. So what actually decides whether a country stays rich or slowly falls apart? Because it's not talent, it's not culture, it's not luck in the way people imagine, it's structure. And once structure breaks, no amount of motivation fixes it. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Countries don't collapse suddenly. They leak slowly, quietly, politically, politely. By the time people say crisis, the damage already happened years earlier. Argentina didn't wake up poor. Venezuela didn't snap overnight. Lebanon didn't fall in a single season. They eroded. And erosion always follows the same invisible mechanics. The first one is trust in money. Money only works if people believe it will hold value tomorrow. Not emotionally, mathematically. When governments spend more than they collect, they borrow. When borrowing becomes expensive, they print. Printing feels harmless at first. More bills, more liquidity, more relief until prices adjust. In Argentina, Venezuela printed bolivars to cover deficits. By 2018, inflation crossed 1,000,000%. A salary could buy lunch one month and nothing the next. Wealthy countries don't avoid printing. They limit dependence on it. The US can expand the money supply, but its currency is demanded globally. Japan prints, but domestic savings absorb debt. Weak countries print into empty demand. And empty demand turns money into paper. The first rule of national wealth is simple. If your currency stops storing value, everything else stops working, because nobody invests in melting ice. Second invisible mechanic, productivity, not resources. People love to point at oil, gold, and land. But resources don't make countries rich, they make them noisy. Nigeria has oil. Norway has oil. Nigeria struggles with volatility. Norway built one of the largest sovereign wealth funds in history. Same resource, different systems. Wealthy countries turn labor into output, factories, logistics, technology. Education is tied to production. Poorer countries export raw materials and import finished goods, which means value is created elsewhere. Every time Ghana exports cocoa and imports chocolate, profit leaves. Every time Germany exports machines, the value multiplies inside. Rich countries specialize in complexity. Poor ones stay trapped in extraction. Wealth isn't what you dig, it's what you build on top of what you dig. Third mechanic, institutions over personalities. When people talk about national success, they focus on leaders, presidents, kings, parties. But countries don't survive because of heroes. They survive because systems work when heroes fail. In stable countries, contracts are enforced, courts function, property is protected, rules outlive politicians. In collapsing ones, rules change with power. Investors don't fear bad leaders. They fear unpredictable systems. If a business doesn't know whether taxes, ownership, or currency will change next year, it freezes. Capital hates surprises. In Zimbabwe, farms were seized. In Turkey, central bank independence weakened. In Lebanon, banking rules broke trust. Once institutions wobble, money migrates. Not dramatically. Digitally, and migration drains growth quietly. Fourth mechanic, debt used for growth versus debt used for comfort. Every country borrows. The difference is why. Wealthy nations borrow to build productive capacity. Infrastructure, technology, education, energy systems. Poorer ones borrow to delay pain. Subsidies, consumption, political promises. Debt for growth compounds. Debt for comfort decays. In the 1990s, South Korea used debt to build industrial ecosystems. In contrast, many Latin American states used debt to fund short-term stability. When rates rose, one group expanded, the other suffocated. Debt isn't dangerous. Misaligned debt is. Fifth mechanic, capital circulation. In rich countries, money moves through businesses. Savings turn into investment. Investment turns into jobs. Jobs turn into taxes. Taxes recycle into infrastructure. It's a loop. In fragile countries, money leaks, corruption, capital flight, brain drain, entrepreneurs leave. Doctors migrate. Investors park funds offshore, which means domestic capital stops multiplying. When citizens stop believing their country is the best place to invest, the collapse begins long before recession shows up in statistics. The economy doesn't die. It empties. Sixth mechanic, demographic math. Wealth isn't just money. It's people in the right age range producing more than they consume. Japan is rich but aging. Fewer workers. More retirees. Growth slows structurally. Africa is young but underemployed. Many workers. Low productivity. The sweet spot is working populations with productive systems. Germany, South Korea, United States. Countries collapse when dependency grows faster than output. Too many dependents. Too little production. Then taxes rise, services fall, and politics turns bitter. No ideology fixes demographic math. Seventh mechanic, shock absorption. Wealthy countries survive crises because they absorb shocks. Banks recapitalize. Currencies stabilize. Markets reopen. Fragile ones amplify shocks. A pandemic kills tourism. Currency falls. Debt explodes. Imports vanish. In Sri Lanka, a mix of debt, tourism collapse, and policy errors triggered shortages of fuel and medicine. Not because Sri Lanka lacked intelligence. Because the buffers were thin. Wealthy countries build cushions, reserves, diversification, flexible policy tools. Poorer ones live paycheck to paycheck at a national level. And when something breaks, nothing is ready. Now here's the irony nobody likes. Countries don't collapse because citizens are lazy. They collapse because systems reward the wrong behavior. When corruption pays more than innovation, innovation stops. When speculation beats production, factories disappear. When politics beats math, inflation follows. People adapt to incentives. Nations become rich or poor by what they reward consistently over decades. Not speeches, not plans, not slogans, rewards. And now zoom out to today. The global economy is fragmenting. Supply chains shift. Currencies compete. Debt levels rise. Some countries are quietly upgrading their structure, investing in chips, energy, AI, and logistics. Others are defending lifestyles built on borrowed time. The gap won't close. It will stretch. Wealthy nations will look boring but stable. Fragile ones will look dramatic but brittle. And the scary part? Collapse rarely looks like collapse. It looks like normal life is getting harder. Slower salaries, weaker currency, more rules, less opportunity. People don't flee in panic, they drift. Until the country is empty of its future. So here's the final uncomfortable question. In the next 20 years, which countries are building structures? And which is spending reputation? Because wealth isn't inherited. It's maintained. And collapse doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with silence. By the time everyone notices, the decision was already made. Most people never learn how the global economy really works. Subscribe now and take control of your financial future.